Hello, this is Martina Flor. I'm a lettering artist, author, educator. I taught thousands of creatives to master the art and business of hand lettering. And today I'm going to take you in an exciting letter hunt in the city of Valencia. We are going to explore and discover vernacular lettering. We're going to break down what makes each style different, and we are going to analyze its details and particularities. Let's dive in. First stop, Casa Baldo in Calle Rivera.
This is a beautiful lettering piece found at one of the most popular restaurants in the city. What I love about this lettering piece is that it features something you find in almost every great lettering piece, a strong use of capital letters. As you can see, Casa Baldo uses capital C and B, while the rest of the lettering remains controlled and regular. These two capital letters add a lot of flavor to the overall composition. This piece also uses a specific sign painting techniques called gilding. It's painted on glass and uses gold leaf on the back, which is why the lettering shines in such a special way. Here's a fantastic piece of signage. It belongs to a hotel which apparently was rebranded. You can see the current branding here at the bottom of the hotel. However, they kept the original lettering at the top because it is just massive. You can see it from very far away, which is more or less the idea. It indicates that the hotel is right there. This is on a rather small street here in Valencia, so it's a very clever move to use such a large sign to show that there's a hotel here, visible to everybody. This lettering uses sans serif letter forms. They are a little bit uneven. If you look closely at the stroke width and the spacing of the sign, it's a bit all over the place. And I'm going to show you a couple of places where you can see that. For instance, if you look at the word hotel, the O is very small and light in comparison with the rest. We say that in order to make the rounded shapes of an alphabet look the same height as the squarish shapes, like the E, the L, and the T, you need to make them a little taller. So they need to have an overshoot, and that O doesn't have it. If it's not bigger than the rest of the letter forms, it ends up looking smaller. And if you look overall, the width of the letter forms is very irregular. The H is very narrow in comparison with the E and the L. So H and T share similarities in terms of width, while E and L have a different, wider proportion. You can also see a lot of inconsistencies in the word restaurant in terms of width. For instance, the U is very wide compared to the A, the N is also quite wide. So overall, it's a very charming design, but there are a lot of things that could be fixed or changed. This lettering piece is a typical Art Nouveau style. You can notice that by looking at the middle crossbars of the E and the A. They have this organic shape to them. This is typical of the Art Nouveau style, which is usually inspired by natural elements and nature. What I love about this lettering piece is how it tries to bridge the two sections of the building's facade. The designer made Mercantil a lot more condensed to make it fit on the right side of the facade. What I also find really nice about this lettering piece is how well it fits overall with the building's architecture. So well done, Ateneo Mercantil. Next to Ateneo Mercantil, we see this vertical sign, Filmoteca, which is the film library or the film house of Valencia. It's a theater. These are classic Art Deco letter forms, usually defined by geometric shapes and very high contrast strokes. This lettering piece also fits very well with the design of the building. Really cool vernacular sign here. Not much to say about this one. I wouldn't change much. Just the fact that personally, I always like to have a capital letter at the beginning of the lettering. But in this case, it just fits perfectly with the design that this is a lowercase letter form. And even if it's grammatically incorrect, since Gaspar is a name, I would say you can make this design decision and still get away with it. It is also very interesting to see the relationship between the A and the S, how they are almost like mirror shapes, and how the designer of this lettering decided to increase the spacing between the letter forms. So if you think about the rule of thumb that says that the space within a letter form should be similar to the space between the letter forms, in this case, the space between the letter forms is much larger than the space within them. You can see that by looking at the P, the counter shape of the P, and the space between the P and the S, or the P and the A, is much wider. But the designer purposely did this to make the entire sign more readable. Otherwise, the letter forms are so condensed that if the spacing were just as tight, it would probably be a lot less readable. And especially for a sign like this, one that needs to be read from far away and in motion, it has to be legible right away. So adding a little extra spacing across the word, that's the trick.
It is really early in the morning, that's why the streets are rather empty. And I am in the historical part of the city, which has a ton of vernacular lettering everywhere. So let's see what we can find.
Very special sign right here, carved in wood. It is also unique because it uses stone carving techniques to carve wood. So you can see the facets of the letter forms, which are typical of stone carving with a chisel. But in this case, it's done in wood. Super special. I'm glad they kept it. Another example of signage, cast directly with the concrete or plaster used to make the facade of the building. And I dare to say that those two S's over there were added later on. They don't seem to fit with the rest of the sign design. It looks like they were added afterward by another designer. What also stands out to me is the L right here. It has a serif and is wider than the rest of the letter forms. So I'm guessing that this was also added later by someone else.
I bet that this small street right here, this is a small side street, and I bet it was populated by vernacular lettering. But all of these signs were replaced by modern style signs, printed signs on vinyl. Such a pity. I wonder how these original signs were back then. I mean, there's a reason why there are so many vinyl signs in a city. Before, creating one of these vernacular signs that I'm showcasing in this letter hand, it's very worksome. Many of them are done with metal or with special materials. They're casted in metal or wood, and that costs a lot of money. And before, it used to make sense to create signs that will last for a long time, because businesses used to last for a long time, or they were created to last for a long time. And nowadays, everything is a lot more ephemeral. Therefore, a business owner starting a new business is not investing much money necessarily on the sign of the store, because they still don't know whether this is gonna last long enough.
Whoa, beautiful one right here at Horchateria de Santa Catalina. It features two different lettering styles on the facade, along with the traditional painted tile work you see on the sides. The bottom lettering is also painted on tiles and uses a fracture style lettering. I believe this was painted directly with a brush on the tiles. You can see it when you look closely at the brush strokes in each individual letter form. Wait, actually, it is not painted with brushes in the traditional sign painting sense or using brush strokes. It looks like it was done by first outlining the shapes of the letter forms and then filling in each stem. It wasn't done using a calligraphic technique, but rather by painting the outline and then filling in the shapes. Now, the sign at the top, that one is stunning, very interesting. There's a small O up there that I think was replaced later on. You can tell by the way it looks. It looks thinner and it doesn't seem to fit with the rest of the design. So I'm guessing it was added later. It is super interesting to observe the features of this design. For instance, the rounded shapes like the C or the top of the R are kind of squarish. Meanwhile, the capital letters are more traditionally rounded. So they differentiate from the rest. For example, the capital C is rounded and it stands apart by not following the principle of a squarish rounded shape. The resting S at the beginning of the word Santa is also very interesting. It's like laying on the sign. Also, the sign is cast in metal, and inside each letter form, there's some sort of chain work, like an actual chain inside each letter. The outline of the letter forms is cast in metal, and then this chain work is added inside. Overall, an amazing piece of work.
I found this pretty amazing sign right here. I'm really excited that it's right in front of a very busy avenue, so I need to wait until the traffic leaves so that I can take a better view of this sign. I'm excited.
This is just the perfect cherry on top to finish this letter hand around the city of Valencia. Just look at the detail in the letter forms. All that line work and the color work as well. You can see a different blue at the top compared to the bottom. Just beautiful.
Well, I have to run now. My train is leaving in half an hour. I hope you enjoyed this letter hand with me in the city of Valencia. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so that you don't miss future letter handings with me. So I'm at the train station about to leave. Thank you so much, Valencia, for all the letter magic. Until next time, bye-bye.